Hey guys, Andrew Houston here from Prof for Contractors. We help contractors become permanently profitable, getting them to go from chaos to control, getting their business and their profits to pay for their freedom. And this is another episode of Trading Tips in the Truck. And I want to give you guys some wicked insight that, just like these boys had, hopefully at some day in their lives, back in the good old days, of how you can take managing your projects, your larger projects, to the next level in communication and profitability, in making you look like a rock star, okay? And it's really, really simple. Now, I think one of the biggest challenges we have with larger jobs is just the mere fact of the complexity of it, and also that we're dealing with a much longer period of time. We're dealing with probably a lot more people. There's a lot more moving parts, and just like anything that has a lot more moving parts has a much higher chance of failure. And at the same token, you know, if you got a larger job, say you got a job that's 10, 20, 30, 100 grand or more, you know, I was just talking with a couple of clients dealing with this right now. If you lose even just a small percentage, you know, like on a $100,000 job, you lose like, you know, 5%. You know, because inefficiencies, lack of communication, you name it. You think about that. On $100,000 worth of work, that's $5,000. Now, here's the real kicker. That $5,000, right, that you lose could happen, you know, maybe it's just setting up the job. Maybe it's, you know, a material. You know, it could be 1% here, 5% there. You know, and so on and so forth. It's not just one thing. It could be a whole series of different things, and that's usually the way it is. So we've got to control and maximize our profitability throughout that job as much as possible. And I was on a call there with one of our clients, Johnny, and they've got this job. It's about a $600,000 job, and you know, they're trying to get control of it. Now, they're experts in this. They know what they're doing. They've got the knowledge, but here's the thing. Anytime you have too much in your head, guys, anytime you got too much in your head, you're setting yourself up for failure all the time. So we got to get the stuff out of your head and in front of the team. Now, what a lot of people will try to do, especially with all this software that's out there and tools and templates and all those kind of things, they're all fine and dandy. But here's my thoughts behind it. Number one insight is that if you can't manage something that's super, super simple, you have a very slim chance of managing something that's more complex, like a software system. So let's deal with step one, okay? Maybe some of you guys are using software right now, so you'll be able to relate to some of these different areas, but I don't care what anybody says. There is nothing better than managing your jobs through getting things tactically out of your head, up on the walls, things that you can touch and see and feel. You can't run away from it, that you can verbalize to your team, that doesn't involve technology. Now look, I love technology. I love software. I love promoting it and sharing it. But guys, there are certain times when starting out, you know, is usually the hardest thing to do. You know, not knowing where to start is sometimes the toughest thing. And if we don't get momentum, some form of momentum to get us moving, and we keep on, oh, we got to, you know, create this checklist or this system in this, you know, using this software, and let's do it for you know, every single job that we've got. We never get the momentum that we need to make the money we need to build upon that momentum to have quick wins. So we want to get quick wins as soon as possible, and I want to give you guys some quick wins right now. I got about T-minus 2 minutes. We're going to wrap this baby up. Here we go. So this is what we did with Johnny, okay? And literally, it's a game changer. So in our group, we had a call this morning. It's only taken him, I believe, like maybe, I think it was 30, 40 minutes to put this into play. But I'm going to show you the framework that we use. So the first thing, guys, is over here. Pretend that this is your quote, okay? Now, it's not as fancy as the quote that you've done, but again, we're roughing it. I just want you to understand the principles. So the very first thing when we're looking at our quote is, we've got this big job. So there's a lot of detail in it. So you've got to break the detail down into bite-sized pieces that you can actually digest and use and apply, right? So what's the first step you got to do? You got to break down your quote into different phases, okay? So take that list that you've got on that quote, okay? It might be 2 pages, 3 pages, whatever, 5-page quote, okay, depending upon the size job and complexity. And highlight the different areas based upon phases. So step number one is identify what the phases are. Say you had a rough-in phase. Say you had, doing an electrical job on a residential house. Say it's a new house. You're going to have the installation of the service, installation of the rough-in, installation of the finishing. So there's 3 basic examples, okay, of phases. Okay, so we identify those phases so that when we look at the quote, and typically a quote is done in the order of phases, right? You don't do a quote and it's all over the place from a timeline perspective. It typically is in the order of the timeline of the job being done, right? Okay, you break it down in phases. You print off the quote. Honestly, print it off, make it physical. Get a couple of highlighters. Ideally, get the number of highlighters as far as colors related to the number of phases that you have. Okay, so you highlight the different items that are on your quote that are directly related to the different phases. Now, why do you highlight it? You highlight it because there might be places in your quote where in the beginning of the quote, there might be a couple of items that may be phase 2, but it was at the early stages of the description of the quote, maybe not. Then what you do, guys, it's quite simple, is this. You want to get some butcher paper, or you want to put this up on the wall. It could be a whiteboard, but I'll never forget how this came about for me. When I was younger and I was running my own contracting company, my dad owned a farm, and still does. And we were taking the pigs to slaughter. So we went to the butcher shop, and I'll never forget going in there. And here he's got this table, and he's got this butcher paper, and he's rolling this butcher paper out. And he would put the meat on it, and then he'd package it, and then he'd write on the package. And I was like, holy cow, man, that looks like something that I could use. So what did I do? I laid out my projects with that butcher paper. I mean, literally, it was like a 6-foot piece of butcher paper. And I would do that for each of the big projects that I had. And then I would lay out all the different micro steps of, the different phases on the butcher paper based upon me gathering that information from the quote. And here's what it does. When you take that information from the quote and you put that up on, let's say, the butcher paper, basically what you're going to do is you're going to lay out the different phases of the job against the different timelines. So up here is time. Okay, so these could be dates. These are the different phases. And these guys here are nothing more than simple sticky notes. Okay, so you're going to take the different tasks that you've got per phase. You're going to sticky note them based upon timeline. So now Johnny's got this butcher paper, this board that identifies for himself, for his team, okay, exactly what's going to get done at different timelines of that project. Now, Johnny's project is probably going to last him, the next 4+ months. So he's broken it out over that period of time. Now, let's go to the next piece of paper. If you've got a timeline that is like over 2-3 weeks, moving into a month, okay? Let's say in Johnny's case, 4 months. You don't need to have every single week all broken out in great detail. All you need to know is, you need to know maybe 2 weeks out, let's call it a sprint of, 2 weeks worth of data, so you know enough detail that you can use and apply, okay? So we break out the timelines, okay? We break out the timelines into smaller increments of time in the beginning. In Johnny's case, he broke out the beginning into 2-week section. Then he broke out the next section into, 4 weeks, not so much on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis. And then he broke it out into the last 2 months. So now he's got a map, right? He's got a map to know what needs to happen, what's going on. It matches the quote. It's super simple. And yes, he can move this into a Gantt chart or some digital software, something of that nature. But to get it started, look, we had the call this morning. He got all of his other things done today. He spent 45 minutes or so putting this together, and now it's out of his head. It's in front of him and his team. So you've heard me talk about the Progress to Profit board. This is a board in itself, but this is a project to profit board because it is worthy of being broken down all by itself. So guys, I hope this was helpful. Again, Andrew Houston with Profit Contractors, helping you become permanently profitable. That's what we do with contractors, helping them go from chaos to control as well as becoming permanently profitable and using those profits to pay for their freedom. Okay, guys? So, tradie tips in the truck. Hope you guys love this. I'd love for you guys to share your boards and insights. And and that would be super cool. All right, so guys, we'll catch you on the flip side. Ciao.